Welcome back to another Phill-osophy Arc episode. In this episode, I'm covering the art of artistry. Now, artistry covers a broad range of things. It can cover music, creativity, painting, drawing, sculpting, casting, formwork, welding, leatherworking, sewing, crafting, machinistry. It can cover dance, music, interpretive creations, sculptural works, jewelry, costume designing, costume making, costume sewing, textiles, leatherworking, fabrication, production, pottery, and costume building. Today I'm going to cover all of this because there's a lot that I've done in my life. Now let's begin by taking a bit of a time warp back to 11 years ago, when my life wasn't so great, wasn't what it is today. There was days where I didn't wake up for months at a time and smile, Until one day I had a very good and worthwhile human being in my life, a high school friend in fact, and he said, I'm part of an artist group, Blender Galleries, and he said, why don't you come on down to the Christmas do? And you might have a bit of fun. And I said, hell, why not? I've got nothing to lose, So I met this particular wonderful Japanese lady. And she ran her own clothing line. And we swapped phone numbers and then kind of forgot about it. And then New Year's Eve rolls around just after Christmas. We meet again at the New Year's Eve blender party. We got to swap phone numbers again and go, we already did that. All right. Well, let's hang out. So the new year comes around, and we spend a afternoon on a Sunday morning and afternoon together, and we had so much fun that 5, 6 years, 7 years later, we were still crafted just about every Sunday. Now I'm going to go scene cut, and I'm going to show you the first thing I ever created with her under her guidance and tutelage. I give you the original jacket that got me the name Pockets. This is, of course, the original hood off the first army jacket. These are the pocket covers off the breast pockets that would have been here. They became caddies, just for a laugh, This fatty zip came from Ministry of Style on Brunswick Street, Melbourne. And it used to go down the side of my big fat rave pants. Those rave pants have since faded into the annals of time because they died. They got worn out, So that's the hoodie part. And then we come down to the zip-on collar, which was also pieces of the zip off the front of the original jacket. This is a German army jacket from Episode, or both of them are to be exact. Off the new jacket, which is this current jacket, this was the sash to put around the waist, These were off the cuffs of the old jacket. This was part of the breast pocket off the old jacket. That became part of the sleeve for another pocket in there. These were off an old army shirt. It was an army shirt originally gifted to me by my cousin. And I did a bit of extra stitching here, so there's loops and things to hang stuff off. And on a good day, you can chuck a beer in there and stuff, And it'll sit there against your chest while you're sitting down. There's a fair bit of work put into here and here. And this is unbuttonable, so these can then button back onto there open if you want, or you can take off the hood, I also reinforced the cuffs and did them in leather because they eventually shred. So this jacket got me the name Pockets on a hunting trip back in 2019. That was my first creation. This would have been a close second creation. After a few months of sewing the jacket, I kind of got into a bit of jewelry making because someone had given me a lot of jewelry. Now this is a really nice bit of light Australian tea tree. And it's kind of like a geisha hairpin. Back then I used to have a big ponytail and I'd slide this through the back of the music festivals, I also did deer antler ones that you'd get a nice ponytail, part of the hair, you put a hair tie and then you go around the bit of the deer antler and then you ponytail again, so there'd be bits of deer antler hanging in my hair and stuff. Now, I don't carry that style anymore, but that's just how the time was back then. And I continued on for quite a while doing jewellery. Now, These are from my mini shop back in the day, my mini window displays. The stacked pyramid necklace, the puzzle piece necklace, of which, and there we go, that's the original puzzle. I found this copy at the op shop. I thought I'd never understand where this puzzle piece came from, but anyway. So we've got the bullet necklace. This is a short caliber. It could have been off something Russian. The lock of my hair from when I was 19. Obsidian glass, which I found. A bicycle valve. 2 bullet casings. A sterling silver spoon. A monocle. You always got to have a monocle, you know. A piece of like black obsidian or black glass that I wound up. I found that on the dance floor back when I used to work hospitality. So that's my jewelry rack number 1. Now, jewelry rack number 2 is a lot more fun. This is my magnum opus of necklaces right here. This is the dead butterfly with bone and bloodstone and blue glass beads and a skull, a bit of glass. Then we have the snapper jaw from a dinner that my mum cooked one day, and I made a little tiny mini battle axe out of it. And then I've got a piece of seashell which actually makes a really good whistle. You wouldn't believe this. That's pretty flash. So I've also got the old fishing thermometer. Now the fishing thermometer is an interesting one because it was this is an English fishing thermometer, and I used acetate to melt out the glue and remove the thermometer. This is also a bracelet I found in the gutter, and I put on a piece of stone slate that had rusted iron oxide mixed into it. So that was another cool bracelet I made. And this was a funky ass knife at the bottom. Now that was my stint into jewelry making. After jewelry making, I kind of got into the sword crafting. I used to carve knives and stuff and wooden daggers and cool things at the music festivals. This is one of my favourites. It's called the Elf Letter Opener. Just a beautiful leaf blade, you know. Just beautiful ergonomics. Sits in the hand. Could be a good one for Harry Potter, you know. These are my 2 favourites. Now back in the day I didn't have much of a toolkit. I call this the Amish briefcase because it is 0 power tools. This thing has got hammers and chisels and sandpaper pads and a straight cheese grater file. It's got a few chisels in there. It's got a few round files. It's got a hammer in there. It's got a bag of sandpaper. It's got a drawer file. These things are cool. It's got a tape measure and a little coping saw, you know. And then it's got a little bit of a basic chisel set in there, like tiny chisels, you know. Little stuff like that. So that was my Amish toolkit for a long time until someone said, hey mate, treat yourself, look into the power tools, you know. Look into the power tools and treat yourself, they said. So then I started getting into the power tools as I got older. Next I had a bit of a stint in like fletching arrows. Now this one here, that's pelican, and the other 2 are backyard chicken feathers. Now I cooked my own pine glue out of some sap, and I actually wrapped that myself. I think it was an Australian type of gum tree sap, so it wasn't pine tar, but close enough. And then I used my own wrapping which I made from grass, and I twisted my own fibre, you know. Then I hammered my own head and made a nice little arrowhead there and wrapped that too and packed it back with a bit of leather. But so I had a stint at archery fletching. The next thing I tried a bit was a bit of drawing. I'm a pretty decent artist from back in the day. Not as good as I used to be because I got a bit rusty, but I'd like to paint this in oil painting one day and join the local town artist and painting club, you know, the painting group, and maybe even put a piece in that Easter art show, who knows. So after a bit of sewing and crafting and working on wacky things, I started getting into a bit of prop building. Now let's see if I still remember how to put this one on. Here we go. This has an articulated jaw, so I can move around. This piece, this started in Wasteland as well, along with the bird mask, of which was also in Wasteland. So there's another interesting thing. This bird mask was made out of 4 pieces of leather. Sorry, 3 pieces of leather. Mum helped me make the blank and work out with the pieces of leather that I had which ones were actually fittable and which ones were not. So I did leather crafting for a fair while, had a damn good bit of fun. I built stuff like this one-of-a-kind racer recycle satchel. This was an off-cut of leather from a marketplace. Where was it? Camberwell, NMIT or something. And I got this piece for like $2 and the edge just finished here, so I was like, you know what, that's going to be a leaf. You can see the old veins and everything in it too, that I put the leather roller through it. And just a basic back on it. The sides are the old German army jacket, leftovers. So that was another custom piece that I did for my business creation. Next, when it came to leatherworking, I built my famous pockets belt. This is known as the belt of the sleeping fox, because on the back of it had all these creases, which looks like a fox with its ears, its eyebrows, its eyes, its bent whiskers, and its crooked nose. And so this was like drive belts for an old lathe, like a metal turning machine. And there'd be a motor up on the ceiling and the lathe down here, and I'd have a big drive belt that'd turn. There's a box of these, so I attached these leather belts together, and it's all dry tied with shoelaces off a very old pair of army boots. So I cherished those boots till they died, you know. Later on I put this on it so to stop from digging into my hips, and then I added rifle strap clips so I could strap the bag on the front, you know. This is a very special bit of kit and I love the hell out of it. It's something every day I have off, I dress up and I wear that and I get to rock around my pocket, you know. Next I got into a bit of firearms. Here is the Sega arcade gun special. I upgraded the iron sights with a bit of a rail out of an old power box. And I put a bit of lawnmower whippersnipper cable on the front for the front sight, you know. And I beefed up the handle back, which was missing. This is the release. So you can put a mag in. This mag also, it's just a piece of metal with a spring bit on it. I don't know what it's from, but I found that in the gutter. And that's pretty cool, building wacky random stuff. Try and reset that. There's a lock mechanism. And it's still got the original buttons on it and everything. I also re-barreled it with a car antenna aerial, and then I was able to like put a blowing fake metal looking suppressor on it too. So that's the Sega special. The next one I made was like pretty much rust inspired Yoker pistol, like black powder, and then you put a twig in the back here, and to fire it you snap the twig and you point it at something, you know. So that was like my Yoker pistol style from Rust. Next one after that was the British Wellrod Mark II Racer Recycles Junk Bashed Steampunk Special. This is a non-working firearm, trigger doesn't work, iron sights are made out of bicycle pressed valves I believe, and it's got a little thing in the back with a spring in it through here. This can be undone. This is plumbing off a gas bottle or water or something, and then the wooden handle I did myself as an offcut from a sheath of another project. And then a bit of screw and glue, you know, a bit of panel beating on the guard, and then an old chopped up rifle barrel because the the rifling inside was shredded. This actually started on one of my episodes on the, I think it's on Racer Recycles. I've got to update that video because this is actually finished and I never finished it in the episode. I just did a couple of hours or whatever on this. It's like a 4-hour stream or something I did at the time. Anyway, that's the British Mark II Wellrod. The next one I came up with, this is a wacko one. This is like the steampunk space gun. These need gluing on though. So we've got a vacuum tube off an old record player, and it's kind of like a laser pistol, and it shoots arcs of lightning. It's got a little trigger. It's got a workable sight on the back, you know. And this is like probably 80-year-old mulberry from Elphington. There's a big park there, and there's a lot of mulberry bushes, and this was a dead branch I found. It's fantastic once you oil it up and get it shiny. So this is the last part of my Race Recycles gun series. Now, next I kind of got into a bit of musical instruments, as you could say. Number one, this noisy little thing is called the Dream String. It uses a bare tape tin as its one pickup, and as its main pickup it's an Arms biscuit tin. On the bottom it has something to hold on to so you don't smother the resonance of the chamber, and by interacting with this wire here you can get some amazing sounds. Some of the songs that I recorded on this, like Flying Hills and I forget the other one, are up on Racer Recycles. So if you look on Racer Recycles, you will find some Dream String on there. There's at least 2 good ones. Next, for musical instruments, is the Kazendo. This has always been a 3-string, but I eventually upgraded it. This is a curtain rail spring that I melted off the outer plastic core. Pre that I had a big ancient door spring, and pre the main guitar strings off a cello, I believe. It was just some kind of gauge of steel wire which snapped very easily. So interesting instrument. This is instrument number 2, and it has evolved a few times over time. Like, the inlay wasn't always in it, so you can see the inlay just down here. These markers are percussion points for the body of the instrument, and then a bit of inlay in the cracks of the instrument too, which don't really show up as easily. But anyway, it's a nice piece, and I do love this one. I've recorded majority of my music on it, and I'm still to this day sitting on about 1,300 to 500 songs, you know, that I've never mastered and edited and trimmed up and actually published. Only about less than 2% of the songs I've ever recorded are actually published on the YouTube Racer Recycles channel. But there'll be one day when I get to retire from my business and have other people run it for me, you know, when the money just rolls in, I'll be able to sit back and start my musical career, you know. Anyway, the next instrument, and the current last one, actually wait, we've got one more before the last instrument. This is the Arnott's biscuit tin, the biscuit banjo. This was a piece of packing crate panel off the farm, and this is probably one of the most wildest ones. It has a maraca inside. It has custom made machine heads from electrical joiners, which are janky as, and sometimes the back parts of the screws lacerate the knuckles and gets you bleeding, you know. But anyway, it can be played lid on or off, and these are a good family friend's old guitar strings off his 14-string guitar. It's a good bit of fun, this one, because you take the biscuit tin off and then you get short strings and it sounds like horror music, you know. Really creepy stuff. And then we have the final instrument, and this one's probably my magnum opus of musical instruments. This is the Ziola. It is a 3-string open string instrument, named thusly because it's like a zither and a violin. And this is what a man does when his freedom is taken away during COVID. So I spent 6 months building this thing in COVID, all because my dad turned to me one day when I was playing computer games in the computer, and he said, "Oh mate, how many hours do you reckon you got in the most houred game?" And I go, "Oh, about 3,700 hours in Dota 2. My dad just looks at me like, "Huh, Well, mate, imagine if you put him into something like crafting. You like crafting, don't you? Say, oh, I do that. And he goes, why don't you think about crafting something in the shed? You're always working on something. Then COVID hit, and I thought, you know what? If I'm forced to play games, it's no longer fun. So I built this bad boy over 6 months, 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. every single day for 6 months straight. And this is the epitome of my crafting work. This is a walnut stock, panel beaten sheet out of steel, door rail, power box rail, rolling door rail, replaceable strings, a real rifle buttstock, the neck off a gas bottle, the top off an oxyacetylene welding torch setup, of which I joined on an extra arm and branch onto it, and this entire thing here is hollow. This entire bit here is hollow, and right all the way down to there is hollow. And then I hollow it out underneath here, and it has some good resonance. It needs attention, but I like to leave it untensioned while it's in storage, because otherwise the strings stretch. So that is the Ziola, the last instrument I've built. I've got a few more in the works, but hell, when I'm running a bloody business, I've now got time to really sit down and be able to craft, you know, which kind of sucks. Anyway, on to the next order of business. The next kind of things that I worked on was walking sticks with a stacked leather handle and a whole bunch of plumbing and hosing and watering pipe stuff, and copper collars and a nice piece of bamboo, more copper collars, and then a hardened steel nut on the end for walking stick. You know, love me a good walking stick, because one day I'm going to be old and crippled and I'm going to need something like this to tide me over, you know, get me around. And then I got into a bit of sculptural design stuff. This was originally supposed to be a food trophy, the Sterling Fork Award, and it involves the upside down part of a shower drain, an SEC original light switch housing, a ceramic insulator from a power pole up at Bogong Village, copper from my grandparents, and a sterling silver fork from the Mount Beauty Hospital op shop. And I constructed this as a food cooking award to be awarded monthly and have everybody's names on it. Granted, that fell through, but anyway, that was a cool thing I made. Next would be when I got into like the last of my guns. And this one's like a trench gun or something, you know, it's got a side grip, it's got a flash hider, it's got a nice strap on it, it's got a cooling chamber, it's got a drum mag, you know, and it's got a real sling strap off a real gun. Next is one other fashion piece. Here we go. This was a piece that I worked upon when I was doing my crafternoons way back in the day, you know. Whole bunch of cool buttons, bits of growing moss and dangling plants, an arm and shoulder pad, a bit more buttons. The zip, of course, did fail eventually, so that's a bit of a shame. And then just like the standard back on it, hey? That was another piece I worked on. I think in time I'll probably donate this to the op shop, you know. Or if someone wants to have it, hit me up in town, I'll give it to you. And a bit more leather working I got into. I forgot this one earlier, but this is an old tobacco pouch. And it just had an internal pocket and a divider. Nice and easy with a lanyard. This thing's gone through. This was a friend's birthday present, so Mr. Goon Hugs, if you're watching, this was originally yours, eh? And when you quit tobacco smoking, you gave this back to me and I gave it to someone else. And honestly, I don't get why, but they thought it was too much effort to wrap and unwrap their pouch, you know, so they couldn't have nice things because they couldn't put in the effort to want to use them. So if they want to smoke from a lame old stock standard little plastic pouch, go for it, mate. The world's your oyster. So again, it came back into my possession. One last thing. So I did have a stint at pottery making back in the day, and this is from Sheepyard Flat. This is a 2017 Racer Recycle Special, and it included pot ash and bits of like crushed and smushed grass and everything to hold it together. And then I did get a wet kind of slurry of black ash, which I'd smashed up with a rock and then paint that around the outside with my fingers. We then fire dried these. We didn't bake them in the oven or anything or in a kiln, but I did line it with UV ultraviolet drying resin. And that's a nice little thing. So like, folks, the entire world is your oyster. You can create with anything. You could sew, craft, do textiles, make things out of leather, make things out of stone, make things out of wood. You can make wands, you can make hats. The world is the absolute limit, and you're only confined by your imagination, people. So if you want to build instruments or craft things or make things that have never existed before on the face of Earth, you know, there's nothing stopping you. And if you don't know where to start, bang up a YouTube channel or do a YouTube search or look at Pinterest, you know, get some ideas. Because like there's absolute unlimited potential out there. And give everything a go, because you don't know what you're going to find. I started with a needle and thread, and then it turned into leatherworking, then it turned into costumes, then it turned into woodworking, then metalworking, then stoneworking, then a bit of pottery, and then crafting and prop building and costume props and musical instruments, and now I'm into gear shifters, which I better go get some of them out. I give you the old Toro. It's probably my best gear shifter to date. It's got a nice grip. It's got finger grooves down the front, so you can just slide them little piggies in. That's probably the epitome of my crafting so far. So what this is Australian myrtle bonded with gum tree. And once I've done the entire thing, I then go in with a pointy like spinning drill head on the Dremel, and then I pick out all the join lines and then I file them off nicely. So it's a fusion of wood. This was my first attempt. This was the mulberry, about a 5-year-old mulberry branch that had been growing for a while, and it can also be held like that. And then this was my dad's first build, the old pool ball. And when I came into ownership of this car, this came with it. And I thought, you know, I could build some of these. And then I got into building gear shifter heads, you know, and now I'm getting commissions for them. This is another nice one. Another Australian myrtle and gum tree combo. This one I didn't have to do much to it, you know, really. But yeah, it's a fantastic grip. And it just has all the ergonomics. And it kind of reminds me of like a heart with a chamber off the side, you know. That's cool, that one. The next one is the deer antler bone. This one didn't work as intended because the angle, once you pull it towards you, is like really bad on the wrist. So it's going to be a model like this for a Subaru manual. And the H pattern's going to go into the top. That's soon to be getting completed, that one. Now, that is a full coverage of the last 11 years of my creative journey through the universe. I've had a lot of fun. I've evolved a lot. I've grown a lot as a creator and an artist, both in my abilities, talents, scope of my dream and creativity and inventions. I built a lot of amazing things, and it took time and it took effort. It took a lot of blood, sweat and tears, and cuts and injuries and lacerations and bruises and smashing my fingers with hammers. Many times. I didn't learn just once, you know. But I did learn. And I had a bloody good time doing it all. I think on last count, I wrote a list of like my skills, talents and abilities and hobbies and interests. And I think I've come up with about 65 of them or something. Oh, it's crazy. I don't even think I'd have that many. But anyway, go out there, folks. Give it a go. Have a crack. Start on a budget. Start with nothing. Start on someone else's tools or things. But get out there and have a go, because our inner artist is waiting to grow and bloom and become something more. Because I always believe that as one pursues their art journey, they grow themselves. And their art becomes more than just the beginning of what it was. And in our pursuit of growing as an artist, our art grows and we find out more of who we are and what we want and who we are to become. The art journey is beautiful, folks. This is Phill-osophy Arc. Have a good one. And partake on the artist journey today. Hey, Future Racer here. If you're finding the Phill-osophy Arc series inspirational, educational, entertaining, humorous, or it's giving you a little smile, think about liking and subscribing. If you have a family member, loved one, or friend who you think could equally benefit from this series, think about sharing it with them.